Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience with us. We're ready to get started now. Today is Tuesday, February 13th, 2024. It is 7:24 p.m. We're convened today as the Provo City School District Board of Education, and we're meeting at 280 West, 940 North. We're going to start our business meeting tonight with a roll call, and we'll start down with Board Member Hall.
Melanie Hall, Board Member.
Gina Hales, Board Member.
Meg Van Wagenen, Board Member.
Wendy Dow, Superintendent.
Rebecca Nielsen, Board President.
Jennifer Partridge, Vice President.
Terry McCabe, Board Member.
Lisa Boyce, Board Member.
Devin Daly, Director of Accounting.
All right, thank you so much. Is there a motion to convene our business meeting today?
I move we convene the business meeting.
Motion made by Board Member Hales. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, wow, I got 3 seconds.
Wow.
We're going to go with Board Member Partridge on that. Second by Board Member Partridge, and we're now officially in our business meeting. We'll start tonight with opening remarks from Gina Hales.
All right, so I'll be quick, I promise. But there are 2 news stories from last week that I kind of wanted to highlight in my opening remarks. The first involves a state school board member here in Utah who used, oh, I'm going to cry. Who used social media to target a high school student here in Utah. Because of this person's appearance was objectionable to them. I'm not here to discuss or to debate the board members' motivations or intentions in doing this, but the bottom line is that her actions caused significant distress and harm to an innocent student by a person who was elected to protect her. I've thought a lot about this incident over the last week or so, why it occurred. And I believe that part of the reason that this occurred is that this state school board member, along with many of her followers on social media, who were the ones who made her aware of this student, they allowed their anger about a specific issue, one specific issue, to blind them to the fact that they were talking about a real person, a student, a human being. And the law that these folks were championed this law into existence. They thought that this person was breaking that law. This law was, according to them, meant to protect this very student. But it became a weapon by which this student was targeted and bullied. The second news story happened at the Grammy Awards not last Sunday, but the Sunday before. 2 people from 2 very different worlds stood on a stage and sang a song together. The song, which is more than 30 years old, ended up at #1 on some of the music charts the following week, and I've been thinking a lot about why this happened. Thank you. Why did this happen? I mean, you could just looking at them and their appearances, they look like they come from different worlds. And I'm like, why did this happen? And I think that this event happened for a few reasons, but the 2 that I kind of teased out was, 1, because 2 people who came from very different cultural and political spheres chose to focus on something that they can agree on. And 2, the song that they sang has a message that resonates with everyone. I'm just going to read 2 lines, the last 2 lines of the chorus. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling that I could be someone, be someone, be someone. Here in the Provo City School District, and we talked extensively about this in the first meeting. If you weren't there, I don't know if I encourage you to watch it, but we talked about what do we want our values, our mission, and our vision to be, and we talked about this. We want all students, amongst other things, right? But we want all students and adults, okay? We're focusing on our students, but we want our adults to feel the same way. We want people who interact with our district to know, not just feel, but know that they belong and that they have potential. I'm grateful to serve with the board and a superintendent that bring all their different viewpoints to the table. I would guess that we have 9 people up here. There's probably 9 different political, cultural viewpoints up here. We bring them all to the table, and we compromise and we make decisions for the district, but we don't allow our viewpoints to blind us to blind us to things that we should be paying attention to, or to overshadow students as our top priority. I'm grateful to be serving with these people up here, as well as the people who are sitting over there. And I hope that we can continue to work together for the benefit of our students, and that we'll remember that we're all just human beings, and we have a lot of positive things that we can bring to the table. That's all.
Thank you so much, Gina. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I don't have a record of who is going to lead us in that. It's going to be Jason Garrison. Welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Ask everybody to please join me in rise. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jason. We are now going to move on to the Community Connections portion of our meeting tonight. We have something extra special, which we don't normally have, but we are excited tonight to welcome Corey Fairholm, the State PTA President. Corey, okay, there we go. I'm looking at the wrong person. But Corey, thank you. If you wouldn't mind coming up, we are going tonight to be recognizing a student who won a contest, and I'll let you go ahead and explain all of that.
Thank you so much for allowing us to come tonight. So this year, we would like to celebrate a remarkable collaboration between Utah PTA and other education partners. And tonight's recognition is a testament to the power of unity, community, and the profound impact that educators have on the lives of our students. This year, like I said, in collaboration with other education partners, the Utah PTA organized a unique and inspiring video contest called Because of an Educator. The goal was simple. It provided students a platform to express in a 90-second video how their teachers have made a lasting impact on their lives through guidance, education, and mentorship. In a world where educators often go unrecognized for their efforts, it's heartening to see the impact that they have made and how they are making their lives of their students better. Our winner tonight has beautifully gone into a video how her teacher has gone above and beyond, serving as a source of inspiration, knowledge, and support. And the teachers, like so many across the state, represent the backbone of our educational system. They are the unsung heroes who, through their passion and dedication, shape the minds of the next generation. So if we could show the video.
Hi guys, my name is Katie, and for my Utah PTA Because of an Educator submission, I will be focusing and highlighting my coach for track and field. Her name is Jamie Rivera, and I chose her is because of how supportive she has been throughout my whole high school experience. In my junior year of high school, there was a time where I was taking a ton of college classes, and I was so stressed all the time, even to the point where it would affect my practices, it would affect my emotions and how I would get things done. It would affect my motivation and my confidence. And one day she came over to me during practice and she noticed this and she sat me down and she said, "Hey Katie, I need you to tell me all that's on your mind about all these classes. Help me see what you're seeing, feel what you're feeling, so I know how to best help you." She continued to do it throughout the rest of the year. I was able to lower my stress levels and be able to receive my confidence again so I could be able to perform, be able to study better, be able to manage my emotions, and just have more motivation to do what I love to do. And I'm so grateful for that, and I hope that one day I can be able to do the same to another person who's in the same boat as I am.
It was awesome.
Mr. Burrell's a social studies teacher.
I'm sorry, that's the next one. We got lots of them. So I would like to invite Katie Hutchins and her coach, Jamie, to come up here, because we have, as I said, our partners have donated some money to them. And so Katie gets $250. Teacher, $100. $100, so thank you for all that you've done to make an impact on your
Congratulations, that was awesome. Congratulations, you too. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Good job. Let's go ahead and give Katie one more round of applause for that wonderful video. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Okay. We'll now give the time to Jason Cox, our Deputy Superintendent, to present our Provo Way Awards.
Good evening, School Board. Thank you for this opportunity. We have another wonderful group of people to recognize tonight. I'm going to read their names. I'm not sure if we have anybody in attendance, but I'd love for, if they were able to attend tonight, to please stand. So tonight we're recognizing Wendy Pancake, Abby Hart, Candace Kuntz, and Sadie Cox. We do have our video that we were able to shoot with them, and again, we do want to congratulate them. They do such amazing work for us, so let's go ahead and see how they help us.
As a dedicated ELL instructor, Abby provides a huge impact with each student in their respective classrooms. She is extremely caring, compassionate, dedicated, has a heart of gold, and works hard to ensure the students she works with progress with learning English. She is such a huge example and influence on these children.
Candace does such an amazing job at what she does. Her students really engage with her, and she's always there for every single one of them. She doesn't care if she has to stay longer or come in earlier. She will be there as long as the students understand and feel comfortable. She makes math so fun for the students. I love hearing her do her lessons. She's such a great team player. She's always subbing if we need a sub. She's just awesome all around, and we are just so grateful to have her.
Wendy embraces all students and provides a very safe, healthy, fun, positive, and uplifting classroom full of academic instruction, discipline, structure, life lessons, and learning for her students. The feeling of belonging and heartwarming welcome you get from her classroom environment is absolutely incredible. Her classroom has a sense of belonging for everyone. She is absolutely second to none as an elementary instructor and teacher.
Sadie is absolutely amazing. She is the most organized person I know, dealing with a multitude of tasks, texts, teachers, and all kinds of amazing things. She is very kind and can make you feel like you're part of the family, even when you're calling in feeling super overwhelmed that your computer is broken or your TV is not working in the middle of your very busy class schedule. She's an amazing tech and an amazing person, and I love her.
All right, let's give them another round of applause.
Just want to give a public thank you to those award winners for all of the wonderful work that they do, and we really appreciate them. We're going to now have a school report by Momi Tuua from Timview High School. And before we hear from you, though, Momi, I just want to take a quick second to let our public know who are here in attendance. If anybody is wanting to give public input this evening, there's a form on this little table over here to my right that you would need to fill out and hand to our secretary, Bonnie Totkus, over here. And if you get your form in, we'll welcome you to the what do you call this thing? Podium. Thank you. I almost said pulpit. All right, podium. To talk to us. So go ahead and be thinking about filling out your form while we are hearing from Momi with our Timview High School report. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Board President Nielsen and board members and district leadership, inviting me to share what's happening at Timview High School. I am Momi Tuua. I serve as principal of this great and wonderful school. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I have a little bit of a cold, so if I might take a break, taking a drink or putting a lozenge in my mouth. You have the PowerPoint and slides. I was told I have 7 to 8 minutes, and I will try to get through these, but if you want to move ahead as I'm talking, you're more than welcome to, in preparation of questions that you might want to ask me. I wanted to share with you Timview's mission and vision statement to empower all students to become college, career, and life ready by embracing growth, inclusion, and excellence. And what does that look like at Timview? If we look at our demographics over the last 4 years, we have about 2,300 students enrolled. And I've grouped them into different categories just to keep it a little simple here. We have an increase of students who are receiving free and reduced lunch at our school. We have an increase of our minority population at our school, a decrease of our majority or our Caucasian population. And our students with disabilities, it's a steady representation. But I wanted to also make you aware of, when I started at Timview High School as a school counselor in 2009, we had 1,800 students. And now we have 2,300 students. So, you know, the difference of 500 students today is not saying that there is a decrease in this enrollment, but you have to factor in the 500 students and how they're represented in our demographics at our school, okay? I wanted to start with highlights just in case I got cut off. I wanted to do some important celebrations of what's happening at Timview. We are recognized in the state of Utah and nationally with the great work that our students are accomplishing. And when we look at our state rankings, we're in the top 10 high schools in our state. But then when we look at comprehensive high schools, Timview High, in comparison to the 5 other high schools, we have, I would say, double to triple the percentage of students who are on free and reduced lunch and are students of color. And to me, that tells me the strong community efforts of our families, our teachers, our leadership, our support staff, where, yeah, we're really good about celebrating things, but we're also willing to go into the bold spaces to peel off some layers and to say, hey, maybe we need to look at this space here and make some improvements. And how are we going to do that? We have about 41% of our students who graduated last year who took an AP exam and passed. About 800 students who took 1,200 AP exams and with a passing rate of about 80%. 254 students last year were recognized as AP scholars. And within that area, there's a distinction, or several distinctions, but the baseline recognition of this is that these students passed at least three AP exams. When we talk about concurrent enrollment, we see an increase from year to year. Last year, students earned 1,700 college credit hours through our concurrent enrollment program at UVU with our teachers. Through the College Board program, excuse me, this year there were 10 National Merit semifinalists recognized, along with our 4 Hispanic and Indigenous student recognition through, again, the College Board, which is nationally recognized, giving our students an opportunity for scholarships and recognition even at the college level. Another celebration, which was awesome, was that in December we finally moved into the North Complex, our classroom building, where about 80% of our teachers and our students go to every day. This happened in December after multiple delays of moving in, and the biggest thing that I want to celebrate with all of us here is that with 106 teachers, 45 staff, support staff, administration, students were able to leave on a Friday at 12:15 in the old classroom building and turn around on Monday morning at 7:30 to continue learning. Teaching and learning did not stop. It continued. Whoever does that in the middle of the school year, right? 10th view. I'm here to give kudos to the teachers and the support staff in what they're willing to do. Now, these people put learning and safety as a priority for our students. Safety is another part that our teachers and staff were willing to say, we need our students parking on campus. We need them closest to us so that we can take care of them, so that they can come to my classroom. And with that, the teachers and staff decided, we'll shuttle in from a quarter of a mile away. And assistant principals and deans who say every morning at 6:30, I'll jump in that van, I'll scrape the ice off the windshield, and I'll warm it up so that I can bring the teacher in the morning, and then have mentors continue to shuttle the teachers back and forth till 4 o'clock in the afternoon every single day, so that students can park close and on campus. And there's a story of a student who parked on our campus and he passed out in his car. And we had a visitor come into our building and saw this student, his head rested on his headrest in his car, but it didn't look right. And this parent came in and called us to go out. And we noticed that he wasn't coming to. We had the EMTs come to 10th View High School, and they were able to revive the student and to find out from the EMTs that had they not come within the 10 minutes that they did, that this student would have passed. When I think about safety, I think about the teachers every day who are willing to give up their parking spaces for our students. And this is one of the highlights of that. Speaking of 10th View's community, we have a very active school community council and neighbors who are not voting members, but they come and they give their input. We're looking at our school improvement plan and our data, and we get feedback from voting members and our neighbors. We have thank you for our board representatives here who are also actively participating as well. And with our PTA and our PTSA, we have great participation. Our PTSA came together to provide a comprehensive pantry that includes food and clothing for our students that they can take home without question and in a confidential way. And this is through the vision of our students with their parents. I wanted to also give a shout out to Provo City Planning, Vern Kessler, who's right there. He has helped Timpview High School. We invited him on campus. We showed them how students cross the streets on Timpview Drive, and he said, we need a crosswalk there. And we were like, yeah, we do. And then going along Quail Valley Drive and noticing that there could be some areas where students can park on that south part of Quail Drive closest to our building, and he was able to do that. So shout out to him. This right here, you see students knocking on doors of our neighbors. So our neighbors are really important to us in our student government and other programs in performing arts and in athletics. They decided to adopt a street. And so once a month, they go to our neighbors and they listen to their concerns. They take some swag, they invite them to school events. They have an all events pass to join us, and this is ongoing. And speaking of neighbors, Edgemont Elementary, I'm grateful to Harmony Karchner for allowing our teachers to park on her campus and making it closer for some of them who come even before 6:30 in the morning to park there and hike over to the school. So when you were talking, Board Member Hales, you were talking about belonging, and this is one of the goals that we have at Timpview High School, that every student should be connected to an adult in the building and know where they can go to for help. Every employee should be able to identify a peer in the building where they can go to for support and help. Every family should be able to connect to someone, and I'm going to say extended to the district, not just to a high school, but to the district, connected to someone here that they can go to for help. This is one of the goals that we have, and it's already happening, you know, but we can go about it in a strategic way. Our school improvement plan, the one that I wanted to highlight on, and how many minutes do I have left?
You're good. We're not keeping track.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
We're all ready. There's no timer.
This is our school improvement plan. We have a literacy goal for our 9th and 10th graders. We have a 9th grade goal, passing 90% of our students passing their core classes, and then increasing opportunities for advanced learning for all of our students. And we have this literacy goal because a percentage of our students in the 9th and 10th grade are not able to access their content that they're learning or supposed to be learning in their classes. We provide universal screening so that we can identify our tier 3, the ones that need the most support, with a literacy endorsed teacher to provide the learning that they need and the strategies so that they can show growth and be able to access their materials. And this is not exclusive to the core subject areas. When you look at CTE classes, where's Clay? CTE classes, there's some vocabulary there that these students are learning that business and industry expect them to know. And so we have seen growth with our 9th and 10th graders in this area by 2 to 3 grade levels at Timpview High School. Our other program that where we are in our 3rd year is our 9th grade supports from core teachers. And the differentiator about our 9th graders is that our 4 subject areas of teachers are able to cross collaborate and look at data and look at students and provide the interventions that they need. Years ago, our students in the 9th grade had a 67% passing rate in their core classes. And we tried different interventions and decided, you know what, we should look at research and see what research tells us. Let's involve community members, including board members, researchers. Board member Boyce was a part of this, administration, researchers from college, school community councils, school counselors, teachers, and administrators. And we looked at this intervention, and the differentiator is this cross-collaborative work. So we went from 67% passing rate to, if you look at the top part here, it's an average of about high 70, low 80% passing in all of these, each of these 4 areas. Now, if we control for students who are absent 50% or more of the time, you can see the passing rate jump to 93%. Right? So we see this program as being viable, and we are moving ahead with it, with some improvements too. For Goal 3 in expanding advanced learning opportunities, I was just at Park City High School today to learn about how students identify themselves in wanting to take concurrent enrollment classes or AP classes, but they don't quite know how to get there. That's what we learned at Park City High School, that students who are in a support class paired with an AP class, their passing rate is not only high in this class, but also they are going to college because they're prepared. They're prepared. And then the other part is that they also track the students in college as well. And so the other part here is we have a co-teaching model for our students with disabilities. Our special ed teachers are in the general ed classes providing supports to all students, but they also know which students need particular supports. And we see our graduation rates increasing from year to year, 63% to 84% last year. And then the last part is a portrait of a Timpview graduate. What does that look like? We're starting that conversation with encouragement from Superintendent Dow. And we're starting actually tomorrow with our building leadership team. Some challenges and what we're looking at our metrics in learning growth and achievement. This is the part where our community, we're okay in stepping into these spaces and peeling off the layers and asking questions. And there's some tension sometimes that happens in these discussions, but that's okay. It's needed, and we want to go into that space. Our attendance is getting better, but we can also improve in that area. Our credit recovery as well. Our construction that's happening, you know about that. Need I say more? And but you know, I'm here in a space of gratitude for the support that you're giving us at Timpview High School, and a space of gratitude to my teachers and my staff and assistant principals in making things happen, especially learning in our school. And with that, I yield the time back to you if you have any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Go ahead, Jennifer.
I have like a lot of questions, so maybe I'll have to save some of them. But first of all, thank you for all that you do. And as a parent of students at the school, I just appreciate the culture you're creating, and the students know that they're loved and cared for. And thank you for that tone that you set for the school. I guess my first question, your goal to have 85% of students reading at grade level. Mm-hmm. I attend the Centennial Community Council meetings, and I'll say their goal does not align very well with your goal. Like there's disparity, and I'm wondering, like, have you guys started to work together? What could you do to work together? Because what they do affects
Absolutely.
the students that you receive, right?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that gap?
As I go along this journey as a school leader, more and more it's become clear to me that there needs to be alignment with our cone site and having these discussions together so that we can dovetail what it is that we're doing at the elementary to middle and then middle to high school. It doesn't make any sense if we're disjointed. Right? And we've had discussions about this in other areas as well. Literacy is one. Our learning strategies is another. And so we're having those discussions. It has come up in our school community council meeting as well, from our neighbors or our community members to align. We have some of the school community council members who serve on both, and they're asking us to do that as well. So that's our charge, to have these conversations together as school leadership and dovetail instead of working in silos.
And then I'll just do one more. So you said the ninth grade teachers are working really well to support their students. Is there a plan to take that to other grade levels, that same structure?
The ninth grade academy, we based it on research that was specific to the ninth grade. We don't have research that extends it, but it doesn't mean that we cannot do it. It makes it more complex in the master scheduling of not only classes, and the part that we always want to avoid is tracking students. So we want to keep the master schedule and what our teachers and what our students want to take open. And that's what's happening with our ninth grade academy. It's the students are choosing these classes that they want to take. The teachers provide that support for their students. If we did that, and the common professional learning community that they engage in is a common prep period that they meet 2 to 3 times a week. So that is the differentiator, that they're meeting cross-curricularly, which also lends to the complexity just for one grade. So if we did it for the 10th grade, we're not saying that it can't be done, but it just adds a layer of complexity to it.
Okay, so that's just a part of our ninth grade class. That's not for all
Yes,
ninth grade students.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I guess I just wanted to speak to the work you've done with Avid too. Like, I love seeing how well you're incorporating Avid throughout the whole school, and it's not just a class or a subset really, right?
That's
like
right.
Those skills
Yes.
and tools cross through every teacher of every subject matter. So there's a common language around the reading, writing, and thinking strategies, and they're being really intentional about it. Anyway, I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Melanie, did you have a?
I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work you've been doing there, and all the challenges you've had to face over the last couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your support. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mommy. There's clearly some really amazing things happening at Timview, so we just appreciate you and your staff and everyone there. Will you take a thank you back to all of them from the board?
That's a guarantee, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll now have time for public input. There's still time to get a form if you are interested in giving input, but we'll go ahead and hear first from Michael Anderson. And Michael, if you would come up here to the podium, and before you start, just go ahead and state your name and the elementary school area you live in, and then we would love to give you the time to give that input.
Great. So yeah, I'm Michael Anderson. My daughter goes to Sunset View Elementary in West Provo. So my daughter gets sick sometimes and misses school, and when that happens, we get a phone call at 10 o'clock on the nose. It's beautiful. It's perfectly timed, and it's an automated message that just says, your kid missed first period. Call if you have any questions. And I always thought this was just an informative kind of call. That I would know that she was skipping if she was. Obviously she's on the couch with a fever or whatever. I thought it was just informational, so I always just hung up. But I learned yesterday that I'm supposed to call and excuse her from school, excuse the absence or whatever they call it. And the message didn't tell me to do that. I never had any questions, so I never called back. So whenever she missed school in kindergarten, I guess it was unexcused. So I'll excuse her from here on out, but I wanted to ask someone if we could change the message to inform parents they need to excuse their kids and not just call if you have questions. So I'm guessing I'm not the only one, but maybe I am the only one that didn't realize that. But that's it. Just if someone could change the message to be more helpful, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. We appreciate that. All right. We'll also hear from Rhiannon McDaniel.
I'm Rihanna McDaniel. I don't live in Provo City, but I do work closely with the school district finding substitutes for y'all. I was just in your study session and I noticed that your mission statement, the welcome, educate, inspire, kind of correlates with your values, but the values are in a scrambled order. So I thought maybe you might want to consider doing belong and community, which correlate with welcome, then creativity and growth, which correlate with educate, and then empowerment, which correlates with inspire, just to have some symmetry there. That's all I had.
Great. Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in our study session and to give us some input there. We appreciate that so much. All right. For those who were in the study session and those who weren't, you'll know, may know that we have several items left that we were not able to discuss. And as I was looking through to see if there's something we could table for a later time, we actually just do need to discuss each one of these items. So we are going to go ahead and go back to items 9 through 15 of our study session. We're going to start with item 9, which is the first reading of our school fees for the 24-25 school year. Devin.
Okay, so you have before you the fee sheets that are for the 24-25 school year. We worked really closely with the principals and with Daryl to try to simplify it a little bit. So you have the 3 district-wide fee sheets that are the maximum. So that will just show the maximum fees. And across schools, you'll also see a 1-page summary for each of the individual schools so that you can compare the 2 schools if you wanted, or what's required as opposed to what's optional. What is also included on the fee sheet this year is a $2,000 overnight travel charge for every extracurricular class and a lot of the performing arts classes, because a lot of times they don't know whether they are going to be traveling the next year. So we put it on so they don't have to come back for approval for the fee, but they will still have to come back and ask for approval for the trip. So that is on there, along with a $200 fundraising capability for program equipment. One of the rules with the state is that any fundraising that you use students for has to be on the fee sheet. And so we have that ability for the coaches or advisors to have a fundraiser that the students can participate in that is specifically for the program and not for their individual fees. And then also there's a $100 amount for awards and banquets and recognition. So last year there was an issue with buying the championship football rings at Timpview because it wasn't on the fee sheet. They couldn't make it a team-wide experience because that wasn't approved. If parents wanted to go buy one, they could, but it wasn't something that they did as a whole team. A couple of things could change depending on the results of legislation. There's two bills out there talking about fees. One just removes the need to have fundraising on the fee sheet, which would be great and make things a little bit more transparent. The other one would remove the ability to charge a general fee, but does not provide a fiscal note with it. So that would be about $500,000 a year that would cost the district.
Okay. Are there any questions for Devin regarding the fee sheets?
Gina.
First of all, I want to thank you for, I don't remember what the sheets looked like before, but I remember being really confused looking at them. But these appear to me to be a little clearer, at least for my brain, so thank you for working with Mr. Jensen on that. And I think you've told me this before, but I was looking at athletics at the district-wide high school fees. These are maximum amounts, right? Like basketball, I mean, is $1,900 how much you have to pay?
And if you add the $2,000, it would be $3,900. But that's maximum. That's the most that they could they can charge. So at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year before the activities actually start, I've asked each of the coaches to give me an actual cost of what it's going to be so we can adjust those spend plans online so that parents actually have an idea of what it's going to charge. Right now, until the end of the year and they know what their balances are, it's a little bit rough to give an actual amount. So this is actually just the maximum and not even just the required. This is all the optional items too.
Okay, yeah, I was a little concerned because that's high for a lot of families.
Correct.
Thank you.
But there's a $5,000 max?
A $5,000 max. And generally, a lot of the students who participate in multiple activities are not on the same schedule of trips. And so I haven't ever had anyone hit the $5,000 amount. Now, if the programs did charge the full maximum, it would be pretty easy to get to that $5,000 amount. One of the things also that's a limitation in the program or in the policy is that it's for 4 activities. So if a student decides to do 5 or 6, then the parents would have to pay the cost regardless of whether they're fee waiver or not. So fee waivers will cover 4 activities. Jennifer.
I have 2 questions. The first one, I got a little lost on the fundraising part. Where do we see that reflected in the fee sheet?
Generally, you'll see on any amount that is the maximum amount can be fundraised for if a teacher chooses to provide fundraising. A lot of the hiccups come when there is verbiage where they say that fundraising will cover the required fees, where coaches have to be a little bit more careful as saying that fundraising will provide support for all the fees, not just the required. So, but the fundraising is reflected in that total amount.
So you're saying they will probably
They
fundraise
can fundraise for quite a bit. They can fundraise for all of it, for a lot of the extracurricular activities, but some don't,
Right.
but they can.
Okay,
So that just gives them the ability to fundraise.
So if this other law passes, then you don't have to include the fundraising. Can you help me understand how these sheets would look different?
So the fee sheets that would be different, you wouldn't have the $200 program equipment amount that's available for fundraising. Most of the fee sheets wouldn't change, but they would be able to do a fundraiser during the year that would be for the program as a whole, or to help support a trip where they could say, we're going to bring in as much money as we can, then we can apply it to the trip and lower the fees rather than having to apply it to specific students.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's
So it helps the
how it's
program
applied.
as a whole.
Okay. My other question, I don't know if you or Daryl would be able to answer this, but last year we had some discussion when we started talking about fees of there's some big disparities between, like I'm looking at some of our sports in our high schools, and I can be at one high school and my required fees $400, and this other high school it's $1,300. Have we had any further discussions in this last year of how to bring our schools into more alignment so we have some more equity between the two?
We continue to have those discussions. The equity piece also has to be addressing whether they're doing the same things in the activities. So if someone goes to a special camp that is more expensive than another, and the other school does it just at their school, those costs there's going to be a disparity in those costs. But I guess Daryl and I will have to continue to work with the principals to see how we want to deal with those different services or the different activities that are worked on and being done in the activity.
Yeah, I have a follow-up to that, and that's just, I feel like I understand the differences in programs are reflected in this maximum activity fee, but I feel a little bit like it would be great if that required participation fee, which just is you get to dance or you get to do band or play volleyball. I feel like the ability to participate at your school should cost closer to the same between our schools. That's just a comment.
And Daryl and I can work on that over the next couple of weeks before we bring it to you again and see if we can bring those a little bit more in line.
I have another question.
Oh, do you want to come to the mic so our audience can hear you too? Thank you. Make them walk.
I just want to say, in talking to the principals, the actual participation fee and cost to participate in those activities is closer in alignment with each other. Is where it kind of gets off is where, like she mentioned, you have one school that decides to go to this price also includes camp and clinics, and some of them travel for their clinics or their summer camps. and some of them choose to have it in their own facility. That's where this cost kind of gets off. And when we talk to them about their spend plan, we told them, we've asked them to put the participation fee into 4 different categories rather than 7, right? So it'll be a player pack, a uniform fee, a participation fee, and I don't have it in front of me, but kind of narrowing that scope down, and I think that will help bring it into alignment. And the principals have talked about trying to bring that into alignment as well. So.
And you can review the spend plan on the district website. We're still in the process of updating them because there was a little bit of a bug in the website when we were working on it last week. But you will be able to see what each of the fees for each of the schools, what the difference is, which pieces of their fee is different.
So my question is a while ago, I asked Superintendent Dow if there was a way to get a fee to a pass for families to come and watch the home games. Is there any further development on that? Would that be part of a fee schedule? So some of the sports require you to pay to go watch your own kid, but not all the sports require it. So I just see this as an extra fee for families.
So the fees that you are approving are the fees that are fees for each of the individual students, not family fees. But that is something that is we're always addressing to help. Superintendent?
Do you want to speak to that since you already
Yes,
talked to the
there will be a family pass or a family pass to get into events. That's been talked about with them. One school has it, one school did not. They're developing it, and it will be available for families.
That's great. I think that'll be a good addition.
Now that will only be for home.
And that's fine. It's just home.
And some of them are trying to decide whether to do a season pass or a winter sport pass or a fall sport pass. So they're kind of going to go down that road as well. So there will be different options in case you have someone playing both boys and girls basketball, right? So that'd be a winter pass. Volleyball and football would be a fall pass, things like that. So if you had an athlete in each sport. So we're trying to develop some of that right now.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions from the board? All right. Thank you so much for that information. We won't be voting on that tonight. Oh wait, no, we will be voting on that
Nope.
with our first.
We don't need to vote on that till
wait for a
next. Yep.
second time. Okay, apologize. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 10. We have large purchase requests.
Okay, so do you want all of them together?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yes. All right, so we have 3 large purchase requests. One is for the maintenance truck that was purchased. The one that it replaced was 22 years old, and we had an issue with the radiator. So it had to be replaced. Then the trucks are a little larger because they push snow, and generally will have a plow or a spreader on the back. So that is $65,000. And then there is the asphalt escalation at Shoreline that's coming out of the contingency. So it's just a new amount. It's not additional to the contract, and that's $51,000, I believe. Yep, $51,000. And then the third one is the Google education platform that has been requested. Chad, do you want to say anything about it? Or Superintendent?
So one of the issues that we have right now is we basically, and you can correct me, Chad, if I totally screw this up, but we have 2 platforms basically for our Google licenses. So our students are using the stu.provo.edu, and our teachers are using provo.edu. And so sometimes our teachers are actually utilizing 2 different accounts. So we want to wrap that into a single account, .provo.edu, right? And it will cost us $4.25 per license, and we do it they'll give us a contract for the next 3 years just to simplify that particular workspace for both our students and our teachers. In addition, it adds a whole bunch of security features onto our Gmail. It doesn't limit the storage space. So part of this too is we're reaching our maximum amount on our storage space of our Google platform, which means then we have to go tell teachers to start deleting stuff off of there, and so this will expand the amount of space that is available, and just there will be a transition process that will happen for our teachers in this, but we have a plan to work with communications to work through that. So that total for each year will be $55,462.50. Did I miss anything, Chad?
Wait, per year? For
Per
3
year,
years.
and this is the 3-year contract, so it'll be that, because it's $425 per student.
And can you also remind us, there was something that we were using in the technology budget that we're
Yeah,
not anymore?
filtering so we were paying for filtering software, and now the state is covering the amount for the filtering software, so this will be coming out of the tech budget as part of that.
Can I ask a question about the asphalt escalation? Will you tell me, does escalation mean something is escalating? Is this like an additional thing?
No, they
or-
just had to increase the level of it, so.
Okay. And why is it coming out of contingency rather than?
Because there's contingency left. There's room still in the project to do some of these without increasing the cost of the contract as a whole.
But it was.
So then it is
they are raising it
additional.
higher.
It's just, so the whole contract includes a certain amount for contingency of those items. So the whole contract that was approved at the beginning, I can't remember the exact dollar amount, included a few $1 million in contingency items.
Right.
So when those things popped up that we weren't sure, we could pull it out of that contingency and not have the total cost of the project.
Right, so I understand contingency. I'm just wondering why this asphalt paving wasn't part of the original, like,
I think it was additional. We could go.
Additional?
I think it's written on the back, there was additional asphalt that was needed.
Okay. That's all I'm wondering. It just turns out we need more asphalt
It was
than
just
what we
an
originally
additional
planned.
amount of asphalt that
Okay.
they needed.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions for Devin about our large purchase requests? Okay, great. We will go ahead and we will approve those ones later in our
On the second page.
business section. Yeah, I did see that, so okay, perfect. All right, item number 11. We'll give this time to Superintendent Dow to give us a report on the Dixon meetings and the next steps.
There's a presentation. Hold, please. Oh, I can do that. It says anyone with a Provo City School District account can view it. The suspense is killing everyone.
Oh, does someone have a joke? Or?
I know. Who has a dad joke?
It'd have to be a dad joke / bad joke, right?
Very much so. Yay. Thank you. So I was asked to just give a report of what took place at our site meetings for the Dixon Middle School site. We held 2 meetings. One was at Timpanogos Elementary and the other one was at Dixon Middle School. And we had Caleb and Shauna there that recorded the meetings, and then there was a survey that was also given. Not a lot of responses on the survey. I think there were like 39 people that responded, but I think there is some telling information on this. So I just wanted to give a summary as you're thinking about what our next steps are in working with our community on this. So first off, I want to thank everyone in our communities who came to those specific meetings to talk about their concerns, and they were very genuine and very candid and very respectful, and that really helped to advance the dialogue. They really talked about that they want to ensure that this site, whatever we do with it, is something that really contributes to the community, whether that's a school. They really want us to understand that this is an urban area, and trying to turn it into something that looks suburban is not very appropriate. They love the community because of its walkability, its accessibility, and those are the things that they're keeping in mind. They do have considerable concerns about what takes place at the site. Once Dixon moves to Shoreline, that area could be vacated at some point. What's happening in the meantime? Will it just fall into disrepair? How do we keep it safe? How does it not become an eyesore? And I believe that's a very legitimate concern. They're fine with a plan, but what does that look like in the interim? There were individuals that talked about the preservation of the historical side of the building, or at least creating a facade that helps us remember the history of the building. A lot of individuals talked about the green space that is utilized, whether it's for pickup games for soccer, it's for the tennis courts, whatever that is. It was important because of it being on that side of Fifth West. I think the other park is on the other side of the street, so it's really making it accessible in their neighborhood. And then they appreciated the opportunity to discuss their concerns, that we're trying to be transparent. They feel like there's a move towards being more transparent, but also emphasizing that we have a long way to go to rebuild that trust. They were appreciative of the opportunity to share ideas and to really just understand the decision-making process. I think part of this is also being very transparent about what we're doing, why we're doing it, when the meetings are being held, how much will it cost, what does this look like in terms of fulfilling all of our needs as a district. And in this meeting, I went through the specific needs that we have as a district and demonstrated that we do have a very long list of things. And I think what was interesting, and those board members that were there could speak to this more, I felt like people really did understand that we have a lot of different needs and that there are a lot of ways in which the Dixon site could really contribute to the community, as well as figuring out a way to meet some of those needs of our district. Ideas that were shared by participants, talking about a third middle school because of the concern about how large Centennial Middle School is, how large the new Shoreline Middle School will be. People seem to be pretty receptive of an idea of a community, a learning center. They loved the idea of education, of it being a space for students during the day, possibly a learning or community center at night, a place where people could gather, even having an auditorium for community theater, different pieces like that. We've talked about the green space, and this is a typo in my presentation. Don't sell it, don't see it to a developer, but don't. It was interesting, there was a proposal made and people were very concerned that it was going to be turned into high-rise apartments, and that was not their first choice in that. And there were very mixed opinions about moving Timpanogos Elementary to the Dixon site and then repurposing Timpanogos Elementary for something else, whether that's meeting some of the needs of the district or what that looked like. It seems to me that more of the individuals are in favor of keeping Timpanogos Elementary where it's at and figuring out what the needs are at the Dixon site, but there were individuals that did suggest that as an option, concerned about Timpanogos Elementary's size. Could we build a better facility that could meet the needs of the size of the community in those Timpanogos boundaries? Also making sure there's a food pantry and the different resources and things that would need to be available. Could we design that better and then retrofit the current elementary school? Others came back and said, please don't do that. We built Timpanogos Elementary, so it feels like why are we building something and then going back and repurposing it later? So there were just some mixed ideas about that. Definitely people are less excited about a district office, go figure, anywhere. And it was interesting as we talked about possibly putting a district office, that we have other areas where we could place a district office, and Grandview was mentioned. there were individuals that said, but Grandview's also in a neighborhood. How is that much different from placing a district office at Dixon? It's possible that neighborhood wouldn't appreciate that either. So there was an idea that the current Timpanogos Elementary could house the CAPS program, East Bay Post High, or that the new site at Dixon could do that. There was also an idea proposed to sell the district office at Foxfield, use that money and move the district office elsewhere. Really not a desire to have an office building in that neighborhood. And some creative problem solving of maybe turning the site into housing for teachers and creating some sort of ability for teachers to actually live in the community. And that seemed to be something that people could get behind.
Wendy, can I ask a question on
Please.
that slide? I was not at the meeting where, at the time that was proposed about selling the district office at Foxfield and moving the district office elsewhere. Can you help me understand how that fits in the conversation if they don't want it at the Dixon site? Why they're suggesting that we sell it?
Just move it elsewhere so you actually have the money for it. So they're feeling, yeah, okay. They're looking at a way to fund it. Okay, yep, great question. So some of the survey things was overwhelmingly don't put the district offices at the Dixon site. What was interesting was really a lot of people being very open. If you go in and look at those responses, which I've given the board access to, East Bay Post High was mentioned very specifically, expanding vocational and technical education offerings, really wanting to make sure that that site still is vibrant and alive and a central focus for the neighborhood, and really asking us to be very transparent about the costs, what the process is, how this fulfills our needs, where it fits into all of the other needs that we have in the construction projects, and what that looks like. So next steps would be to review this information, and then you as a board would start to have discussions. You know, we already had construction updates about Timpview. How does that fit in with the needs that we have at Timpview? And really, you know, if you want to give any direction on what our next steps are, then we had talked about, I think at a prior board meeting, is this something we need to start taking out to our larger community about what our needs are as a whole district, and getting more feedback across the board as to help us prioritize some of those things. So, questions?
Questions from the board?
I have one comment, and that is when you talk about going out to the greater community, a couple things come to mind. One, I feel like we still have a large amount of information that we received a year ago from the greater community around, like, it's not specific to facilities, but it is about kind of priorities. And then we just did send out a survey as part of our strategic planning around district priorities. So I would just want to be clear, what are we asking them? Are we saying, here's a list of facility needs, and how would you prioritize these facility needs specifically?
That was what I was envisioning with that.
Any further questions? Do we want to go ahead as a board and give a directive to give Wendy the go ahead to start working on, you know, a citywide type survey? Is that what we're looking at?
Or similar meetings that we did in other neighborhoods, or whatever you feel is best. I was told that putting information out electronically is not the most efficient way, and I know that for me too. So they want like flyers and physical things that are mailed or handed to them, so we can do that too.
If we go, we learned a lot of interesting information about Timpview tonight. So if we start going out to the whole city, what do we start including Timpview in that? So it's an overview of our entire needs.
That would be my recommendation, is to say, these are the needs. This is kind of what we're seeing. What are the priorities that? And there's going to be a lot of questions about what the costs are. I think we need to identify what those priorities are, so we start looking at, you know, how are we going to fund this, and what does that look like? Because that's going to take us a little bit of time to put that in line.
I think that conversation about funding needs to happen with going out to the community at this point, or can we go first and have the discussion about these needs and Timpview, and then? funding, or you don't?
I think it's actually a good idea. I mean, personally, I think we need to let people know what our needs are. I think they need to see some of the pictures of what's happening, see East Bay Post High, see, you know, like, I don't know that is, I think once people start seeing those kinds of things, I think it changes people's perspectives more. So that would be more the goal, is to really share really specifics about what we're up against and what we're trying to create for our students.
Jennifer and I were at the Timpview PTA meeting, and I brought up the question about, like, I just said, I know there were just a few of you here, but I just want to gauge, how would you consider a bond? Like, you know, because to do a lot of these things that we're talking about would require a bond. And it was actually pretty favorable that they would, especially for the Timpview, I mean, obviously they were Timpview parents, but one of the ladies was like, you guys need to really sell this and show us, like, so what you're talking about is, you know, they just felt like the last one, they just felt like we didn't give them enough information.
Well, and she expressed that she and her neighbors still don't fully understand the scope of what's needed.
A lot of them feel.
And if we were to just say, hey, we're going to build the rest and there's a bond, they would not understand the importance of why it's a need and not a want.
Because I think a lot of them think, oh, the auditorium's fine. I was just in it last week, you know, and it's not. But so it's our messaging has to be very, very good.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I do feel it's important to take the overall discussion to the community, Dixon, Timpview, the needs that we have throughout our programming and things. Because these are going to be some complicated decisions that we need to make, and we need input, and we also need them to understand. And so whenever we do make a decision, the community is already aware that we've had to make a decision and can hopefully get behind it and support it, so we work together on this as a full community.
And I think that's the key. I think that's why these meetings, I assume meetings is the route you may want to go, right?
I feel
I
like
think
it's
that makes a
more
lot of
personal.
sense, because if we can get a pulse and a gauge of what support might be like before we decide to go on a bond, I mean, I just feel like that's maybe our best bet.
I think before we have any meetings with the community, we need to have a long-term facilities plan, because otherwise, that's one thing I have heard over and over again. What's the long-term plan? Okay, so what's the purpose of Dixon if in 10 years you want to repurpose it for something else? We need to have a long-term plan, not just 5 or 10 years, even longer.
I think even starting with a 5 or a 10-year plan might even be great. Like that, I even think starting there to say, these are the needs that we're looking at in the immediacy, and what is that? And I think it was helpful for some to also see, like, our enrollment is not, we want Provo to grow, but our enrollment is actually not increasing. It's only increasing at our high school level. It's not increasing at our middle school and our elementary levels. And so, but that is something we want to keep tabs on, so that we're being very transparent about what's happening with those numbers. Because I think there are individuals that are concerned that at some point that might change. So, yeah.
I just want to respond. I understand what you're saying, Terry, but I also think that in order to create that plan, we have to have this discussion. Like, I think it has to happen hand in hand, because we can't know where we're going to be in 10 years if we don't know what we're doing with Dixon or when we're rebuilding the rest of Timpview. So I think we've got to obviously know the other elements besides those, but I think we're going to have to kind of build it alongside. And don't we have kind of a plan with our existing buildings
I feel like at some point on my board tenure, we've seen a 10-year plan. We've had something in the past. I don't know if it's active, and it makes sense that it would be a living document that would be continually changing, really, right? So I know we've got something, or have had something in the past. Devin, do you know? Do we have?
I know that we had one when we had a really active facilities advisory committee several years ago, and that's been brought back as the Capital Facilities Committee to help reevaluate and see if that plan that we had in place is still viable. 10 years ago when we started the plan, we weren't aware of all of the issues we were going to have at Timpview. So those long-term plans can sometimes be derailed by unexpected situations that we still have to address, which pushes some of those others, which is why we're trying to get really active on the Capital Facilities Committee to make sure that we're covering the critical needs at all of our schools, plus planning for the future.
Lisa?
Well, one thing that comes to mind as we think about talking to the community and presenting, like, here are some needs and getting their input on priorities, a conversation that you wouldn't be able to really have at the same time, but that I think is helpful, is a really clear, open engagement around where we are financially, with an accounting that's clear of where resources are currently being allocated, what resources we do and do not actually have. I think just being really clear about that for ourselves and for the community helps everyone think creatively, and also helps us make sure that we don't bond if we don't need to bond, if there's a way to do it, and that we are prioritizing those things. But, I will hear from people, well, the district has the money, and then there's like a series of things. And I think, well, I'd like to be really clear and have them be really clear, or as clear as possible. I know it's so complex, right? But as clear as possible around, here are the resources we have, here's how you can see where they're being allocated, and here are some ways we can approach these problems, and then here's where we will have to do something else if we actually want to fix this problem. I just think the clearer we can be with that information, the better.
My only next question is, with this 5 to 10 year plan, or even a 10-year plan that Terry's talking about, one of the things as board members, we're not allowed to bind future boards. Does any of that create problems for us?
They can always, not if it's a living document.
It's just a plan. Okay, just making sure.
I don't see how it couldn't be a living document. It would have to be continually
We would
changing.
have to be clear in our communication about that, though.
Yeah.
So that the community understands that too.
Okay. So does everyone feel okay with giving Wendy the directive to go ahead and start working on greater community meetings? Okay. Or facility needs? Okay. Thank you so much.
I felt like you weren't having enough meetings, so I'm glad we did that.
That?
We don't have enough meetings.
Oh, you're making a snarky comment. I've got it. I'm teasing.
Can I just add to that? I recognize the importance of getting to this quickly, but I also recognize that we already have a lot going on, so please don't schedule them in a timing that will kill you off.
Gotcha.
That's a nicer way to say what I was
Kill you off. Nicer, okay.
Very professional.
I love meetings. Ask them. I schedule a lot of them.
Well, we're still here. It's 8:42, so clearly we all love meetings too. All right. Excellent. Let's move on to item number 12, the interim BA assignment. And I'll just go ahead and take that, if that's okay. The board leadership has met with Devin Daly, and she's accepted our invitation to serve as our interim BA until July 1st. So we want to thank her for being willing to take on that assignment in the meantime, and maybe even congratulate you on taking on that assignment. And we just appreciate your work so much. So thank you.
I know that I jumped to congratulations, but I am happy to do so.
Thank you, Devin. We appreciate you being here with all of us. All right. And item number 13, our first round of notifications of appointments. That's for you, Wendy.
Okay, so can I get the organizational structure draft 2.13.2024 put on the screen? I can put it up. Will you let me project? If you'll let me project, I can do it. Excellent. That'll be a lot easier. I never guess the code right. I'm so disappointed every time. Okay. All right, let's see if we can make this so people can see it. So let me just explain kind of the rationale for doing some restructuring. Over the past 6 months, our team has met with every single principal. We're in the process of doing listening tours at all of our schools, meeting with teachers, meeting with different directors. There's just a few things that have kind of come through as a theme. One is that our district is very siloed and there isn't always good communication, and that people in schools feel like they have multiple bosses. So especially our principals get caught in that crosshair where they feel like this department is giving them this directive, which they might need to, but then it's not going to their supervisor, and then this department's giving a different directive. And so in an effort to streamline that so that we can support our schools better, that's one of our major goals. Our second major goal is that we feel like we have a lot of individuals and bodies at our district office, and we would like to push those individuals out into schools to support our administrators with their work. So one of the things that comes up in listening tours quite a bit is the behaviors that our teachers are experiencing, and they recognize that their administrators, particularly their principals, are working really hard to try to manage that, but there just isn't the manpower to do so. There's also just, we do have instructional coaches to support the instruction, but sometimes they're half-time. Sometimes one school's paying for it out of their budget and another school's getting it paid for by the district office. So there is not a lot of equity, nor has there been a lot of consistency across what that looks like. So then sometimes teachers are caught in that crosshair because they'll have this coach that's coming from the district that says this, and then a school-based coach is telling them something different, and just feels very not unified, for lack of a better phrase. So what we are proposing to do is that, and this will kind of come in phases, but this initial phase is really about kind of the realignment at the district office, is that we are going to reduce the size of cabinets. So we're actually removing 2 assistant superintendents and placing those departments under other groups. So for example, teaching and learning will be divided into an elementary teaching and learning with a director, and that will be Judy Rose, and then we have a secondary director of teaching and learning, which will be Doug Finch, and those 2 individuals will report directly to either Jared Seitz, who is the assistant superintendent over elementary education, or Daryl Jensen, who's the assistant superintendent over secondary education. With that, then, we also want to push some additional support out to the schools in terms of, if you start following this trajectory down, you'll see that, for example, Jared's over elementary principals. You'll notice that it has a spot for elementary assistant principals. Traditionally, we have only had 3 of them. We added a 4th one at Franklin. Our proposal is that we are going to have an assistant principal at every single Title I school, every single school that has over 550 students, and for our 2 elementary schools that have under that amount, which is Rock Canyon and Canyon Crest, they will have an assistant principal intern. That person will still be required to have an administrative license. And so hopefully that can kind of help with providing some support for our principals and also for our teachers for a lot of those behavior issues that are happening. And then at the elementary school, we have traditionally had a facilitator position, which is an individual that's in particular coaching our interns and our student teachers and kind of helping with our partnerships with UVU and BYU. What we want to do is, because coaching is already a fundamental part of what they do, we want to turn that position into a full-time instructional coaching position that is supervised directly by the principal, just like the facilitators have been. But these individuals are then trained by teaching and learning. In doing that, what will happen as part of that process is that tomorrow morning, we will be opening a pool for candidates for those who would like to be an assistant principal. and anyone who would like to be an instructional coach. So that means our current facilitators and our current coaches, if they want to apply for those positions, then they do need to apply for those specific spots. At our Title I schools, we would still continue to fund our Title I coordinators. They help with a lot of the Tier 2 interventions there. Also under elementary education will be Michelle Eldridge's department, Title I, Title III. We're toying with, is this called the Department of School Improvement? Is it called the Department of Access and Opportunity? Really trying to put language services, migrant education, there could be parent outreach tied to very specific parent groups that are often underrepresented, extended learning because our after school programming is often geared towards our Title I students, and our Native American students with Title VI would also fall under this. There could be some other pieces that come under here as well as we go through things, but this seems to be a place where we can support our students and our families that are sometimes underrepresented, and that they know where they can go for that support. I'm going to flip over to the kind of the right side. Under secondary education, same thing, secondary principals would be under Assistant Superintendent Jensen. We are going to change our PBIS coordinators at each of the middle schools into a full assistant principal. I feel like those individuals are working already as a full assistant principal, and we're not paying them to be a full assistant principal, so let's get them the pay, get them the skills, make sure they can support, so that every middle school would have 2 full assistant principals. And then at the high school level, at Provo High and Timpview High, instead of having deans of students, we would just make sure that both of them have 4, I think, full-time assistant principals, because again, our deans of students are doing a lot of the same work there. Each of our secondary schools would also have an instructional coach. Those positions will also open, and they will be under the supervision of the principal and trained by teaching and learning. Clay Bingham will continue as the Director of Career and Technical Education. We are proposing the addition of a position known as the Director of Special Programs. This would be a position that would be opened with the elimination of some of those assistant superintendent positions, and you're also going to see that some of our departments used to have 2 assistant directors. They'll now have 1 assistant director. We need to streamline some of these departments that are kind of these one-offs that are happening. We need a lot more robust support for 7 through 12 in terms of what information is going to counselors, how are students being prepared for post-secondary opportunities, what does that look like, are we getting consistent messages across our high schools, and then these coordinators, we already have coordinators underneath each of these and positions under that, so they would just fall under this Director of Special Programs. And then Nate Mitchell, who is our Director of Research and Assessment, will fall under secondary education, because we need to help our secondary schools get access to data that they can use more frequently. Our elementary schools are pretty good with that. And then our next department is school support. That will be under Jason Cox. That will entail human resources, special education, and student services. And you'll notice that, like in special ed, we had a director and 2 assistant directors. Those assistant directors are going to be moving out into schools as assistant principals, and so we will be posting a position for an assistant director of special education. And then we will also be, Jason Garrison is going to become our Director of Student Services, and we will post a position for assistant director, as Clint Wolf has asked to have an experience as an assistant principal out in a school. This is our first piece of this, so as these positions are posted and as we interview, we know that that's going to lead to some openings at schools as a result. And so on February 27th, not only will those positions be announced, but if there have been vacancies then at schools, then those will be announced at that time, so that those new individuals can be involved in the hiring process, in FTE allocation, and what that looks like. And on board docs, there's the process for how all of the interviews happen. These positions will be posted tomorrow. We've been working with HR. We will start interviewing for those positions on the 22nd and 23rd of February. So it'll be a very fast turnaround time so that we can get some stability back into the schools very quickly. What questions do you have? Maybe I should start with what questions don't you have? So.
All right, questions from the board.
When do you sleep?
Not a lot, but every once in a while.
I just want to thank you for doing this hard work. When I was campaigning, this was one of the things that I heard a lot was we need to reduce the size of the district office and get more people into the school. So I know that this is can be difficult work, so thank you for taking it on.
Will, do you want to comment? Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, I was just wondering what would constitute cabinet under this new organization, or if that would still exist at all.
Cabinet still exists, so it just has the assistant superintendent over elementary, secondary, myself, business administrator, and communications. So teaching and learning and student services are now represented by the deputy superintendent of school support. Yep.
And Jason too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is, what is the difference between the regular assistant principal at a elementary and an assistant principal intern?
An assistant principal intern will not have a full-on contract, so they would just be given, they would be on a teacher contract with additional days, whereas our assistant principals are on a 242 contract. So it can become a good training ground for someone who has an admin license but hasn't actually had experience in a school without it becoming like, hello, here you go, good luck. So that's what we're hoping with that. And if those numbers change and our enrollment grows, then that's why we wanted to have that consistent number so that a school knows at what point do I get an additional assistant principal. We just need to make sure that we've felt like sometimes it's been like, well, why does this school get one? Why doesn't this school get one? What's determining that? So.
Lisa, did you have your hand raised?
Trying to decide.
I'll say what I say to my preschoolers. So when you remember what you want to say, just raise your hand again and then, okay. Anybody else? Okay. Wendy, thank you so much for this. This is a pretty big announcement and a lot of work. And I'm just happy to see someone kind of hit this head on. I mean, we've known that we've kind of needed a little bit of work on our district staff and some more support in schools. And so for you to take this on and really work hard on this, spend a lot of time, and to give yourself such a tight turnaround time to get it all done is really some pretty incredible work.
I do have one question.
Okay, go ahead.
Those that are currently facilitators in the schools, have they been notified about this?
We're waiting for today, and then that notification goes out tomorrow.
Tomorrow, so they'll be notified.
Yes, I will. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that
And
up.
was the decision around the number for enrollment to go from an intern to an assistant principal, like how was that decision made?
I would really like to say that I put together a really complex
Okay.
formula, and that what I really look at is when I think about this, I think about what is manageable for one individual to handle. And so when you start looking at the ratios across high school, middle school, trying to get that consistent, that's where that number comes from. So.
And so they've had a facilitator and a principal. So if they have an intern and a principal, you feel those are the same resources that they'll need.
They're getting also a
Than
full-time
the
instructional coach.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. So every school will see an increase in this. Every single school. And one of the things that at first when I was thinking about it, I was like, well, we'll just take the Title I coordinator positions and turn that into something else. And I'm like, no, because now we're actually not providing that equity. Those Title I schools definitely need the greater support. So I think we have been able to provide the greater support to Title I schools, but also acknowledging that all schools right now are needing more help and support, and I don't want our principals to get burned out in this process. I think it's also important to recognize that that looks really okay on paper, but it does affect individuals. Like this change is very, very hard. And it's not an easy thing for anybody to deal with. And so the goal is to try to support and help people get into the spaces where they feel like they can be successful and happy and effective, because that's what's going to make all the difference in the process.
Can I just clarify one thing? When I was reading through here, you're trying to hire within the district, is that correct?
Yes.
And then look outside if they can't
If
be
we
filled.
can't, and I don't expect that any of these would be opened outside. We have people in our district who can do these things.
Any further questions or comments? Nope. Okay, thank you so much. Item number 14, consent calendar review and questions. Are there any questions on the consent calendar?
I did.
Okay. Go ahead, Terry.
7. Yes. So I saw on there the Rockmont Industrial Corporation, the asbestos removal, was that, and also the Rush Truck Center for the buses. I know that they've previously come under board, but I couldn't find it. Which meeting were
Buses were approved in the budget process last year, in the capital budget process.
So were they under budget though?
Yes, a little bit.
A little bit.
Not very much. And I don't know the exact amount. I seem to remember that we budgeted it's 440 is how much the check was for. Sorry. 423. I think we budgeted 440 for them. Okay. So not very much different.
Same with the asbestos removal.
The asbestos removal was a little cheaper, but a lot of that amount that we were under is also being used to remove the barrel that was found in the basement, and additional charges on the tearing it down.
That's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions? Great. And then last item number 15, the upcoming board calendar items. I think everyone take a look at those. Anyone have any questions on those?
Did they add the regional meeting for USBA?
Yes.
Okay. And then today in foundation meeting, they had to move the evening in excellence to April 23rd, which is our second meeting in April. So they were wondering if we could end early and then head over to their event.
There's high chances, because we try to keep our second meeting of the month
shorter,
smaller and shorter. So I think there's high chances we can.
Yeah, they had to move it to what's the hotel on Center Street? The Marriott. And that was the only day available.
Okay. Okay, we'll keep that in mind as we're doing the agenda plan for that meeting. Okay. All right. Great. We made it. We're ready to move.
We actually don't have a meeting that day.
On April 23rd?
No, because we have it on the 16th because it's
because of spring
month.
break. So we just have the one.
Then
okay, so then I give you 100% chances that we can.
We can be here. Plus
we can make it to that.
All right.
Plus, I think did we cancel that joint city council meeting on the 25th of April? I feel like we also had that
25th
that week, but
I'm not sure
well,
either.
We'll
have to get back. Yeah.
That's on my calendar.
On this calendar, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to our business items then. All right. Business item number 1: consideration to approve the student travel for Centennial Middle School and Timview High School to go to the Science Bowl. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Centennial Middle School and Timview High School requests for student travel as discussed in study session.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Boyce. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Board Member Hall. Any further discussion or comment, starting with Board Member Boyce, if there's any? I forgot to get a summary on this one. I apologize. Is there anyone who wanted to give us?
I was just going to say, I've been watching way too many state legislative committee meetings. And when someone does a motion and a second, if they don't want to speak to it, they say, I waive.
Oh, all right. Well,
so if you want to
we want to adopt that formal language,
legislature is doing, we can say, I waive if I don't have any
Melanie wants to do the wave.
But with that, we were going to start it.
I think the summary on this one is that Centennial Middle School and Timview High School are have been invited to attend the National Science Bowl in Washington, D.C., which is a big opportunity and a really exciting thing. So,
And their trip is paid for as part of that invitation.
okay, so any,
I just want to say congratulations to them.
okay, great. All right, we'll go ahead and vote on this then. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Nay? Motion passes unanimously. Oh, I keep losing my spot because I keep going back and forth. All right, item number 2, consideration to approve policy 3330, the inclusive learning environments. And Wendy, will you give us a quick summary?
Yeah, this is just a policy that's been up. This is our second reading, and we did consider and discuss in study session the additional language on public forum, schools as public forums. So just keep that in mind if you would like to make a motion to adopt this policy.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve policy 3330, inclusive learning environments, with the additional sentence we discussed in study session.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Any further discussion or comments, starting with Board Member Partridge, if there's any?
I just appreciate all the work that has been put into it, not only from our district staff, other board members, but the community input has been very valuable.
Anyone else? Great. We'll go ahead and vote then. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed with nay? Motion passes unanimously. Item number 3, consideration to approve a large purchase request. This is for our maintenance truck. Devin, if you'll give us a quick summary.
This is just to replace one of the maintenance trucks that was old and had some problems.
Great, thank you so much. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the large purchase request for a maintenance department truck in the amount of $65,770.16 as discussed in study session.
All right, thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Van Wagenen. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Board Member Boyce. Any further comments or discussion, starting with Board Member Van Wagenen, if there's any?
I waive.
Nicely done.
I wave too.
Great, okay.
That's what they say.
I love it. I say we be as formal as possible. Why not? All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Great, that passes unanimously as well. Item number 4, consideration to approve a large purchase request. This is for the Google Education Platform. Go ahead, Wendy.
This is just to make sure that we have the right space on our Google platform and to make it simpler for teachers in the long run.
Great, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the large purchase request for the Google Education Platform in the amount of $55,462 as discussed in study session.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Hall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Any further comments or discussion, starting with Board Member Hall, if there's any?
I wave. It's late, sorry. It's been a long meeting, guys.
Seeing no more discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. All right, number 5, consideration to approve a large purchase request. This is regarding the asphalt escalation at Shoreline. And Devin.
This is just additional asphalt that was needed at Shoreline.
Great, thank you so much. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the large purchase request in the amount of $51,546 for asphalt at Shoreline as discussed in study session.
Thank you. Motion made in stereo sound. Sorry. By Board Member Hales. We'll give it to Board Member Hales. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Board Member Boyce. Any further discussion or comments, starting with Board Member Hales, if there's any?
I wave and hand it to Board Member Boyce.
I also wave. Great. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. Item number 6, consideration to approve our interim business administrator. And I'll just summarize that. We have appointed Devin Daly. So I'll take a motion on this one.
I move that we approve the appointment of Devin Daly as the interim business administrator.
Thank you. Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
She's got it. Who got it? Meg? All right. Second by Board Member Van Wagenen. Any further comments or discussion, starting with Board Member Partridge, if there's any?
I just want to say Devin has worked in our district for a long time, and I appreciate your expertise and knowledge, and have confidence in the way you'll be able to fill this role. So thank you.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and take our vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Congratulations, Devin. And thank you, and good luck. We'll give you that as well. All right, item number 7, consideration to approve a new position. This is for the Director of Special Programs, which was just discussed by Wendy in the district restructuring portion of our study session. Any further comments on that?
Just, we want to make sure that it's approved and part of our budget for next year.
Great. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the new position of Director of Special Programs for the district.
Great, thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Van Wagenen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hales. Any further discussion or comment, starting with Board Member Van Wagenen, if there's any?
No.
Oh, come on, say it.
I wave.
All right, excellent. Okay, we will go ahead and vote on this one. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes unanimously as well. On to the approval of our consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
Yes, thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Hales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Hall. Any further comments or questions? None. Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously as well. All right, Student Board Member Report. Will and Max.
You want to go first?
I'll tell you.
Okay, so we just recently had our district student council meeting. We mainly were discussing kind of the future of what the district student council will be and student members as a whole. We also talked about our trip to the Capitol coming up on February 22nd that Vice President Partridge will generally be in charge of planning. So we're excited to see what she puts together.
We also talked a lot about the attendance policy and stuff going on at Provo High. We got some good insight from Tessia, who's on the district student council as well, and she was able to give us some good information. She planned that out very well, so I was very happy with how that turned out.
Great. Thank you. Any questions from the board members for our student board members?
I'm curious to know what the thoughts were about the policy at Provo High, the attendance policy.
Oh, yeah. Generally, students thought it was a little unfair. Mainly just because what counted for the minutes, which didn't really make sense. So the way it works is if you're within 1 minute to 15 minutes of tardiness, you're accounted for 15 minutes. So even if you're, and that goes on to your minutes, which then, if you get over, what I think it's 240 minutes of missed class, then you are put on the no participation list. So there's no extracurriculars, anything like that. And so you get 15 minutes added on even if you're tardy by just 1 minute. And then an absence I think is 90 minutes. An unexcused absence is 90 minutes. Of course, these can always be excused by parents, but then again, there's always just that time because they're only allowed 72 hours after that absence is occurred. I think generally that's enough time for a parent to excuse that. But of course, there is that area when parents weren't aware of that, or they were having family issues or something like that couldn't be resolved. So generally, we think there are some ways that it could be improved.
With that, one specific thing that we did talk about was maybe when parents receive a text notification, they can just reply, yes, I excuse, which I think would be a much easier way than having to call. I can say that the Timpview attendance secretary at the very least is usually a few hundred excusals behind. So that could deal with a lot of the work that goes into excusing absences.
Okay. Any other questions for Will and Max?
Sorry, I have one more.
Okay.
Sorry. Because first of all, I apologize that I haven't been able to attend your meetings, but I always am there in spirit. I'm just working at that time. But I'm wondering, when you have those discussions and you get student input, what happens next? Do you take that? Do you have a report to the principal or an assistant principal with that conversation and that information from the students, or is it here, you bring it to us, and then we take that? I'm just curious about kind of lines of communication and how to use dialogue you're having in a productive way?
Yeah, so usually there's like one admin from each school at that meeting. It'll be like Mr. Ventura or Mr. what is his name, Burdette.
Yeah, Mr. Burdette.
Yeah, he'll be there. He's from Timpview. And so yeah, they'll usually be our line of communication between that. And then of course the board members who do attend as well are our line of communication.
Thank you.
I can just speak to an example. Like, we had a presentation about how valedictorians are chosen, and so part of this is to create, we have a subcommittee that will start working on how to change that, because it seemed very convoluted and very problematic. But so there are things that come through. We're going to meet with board member Hales to talk about, what is the role of the district student council and the expectations, and how are student board members actually chosen? What does that process look like? So they're you guys are quite involved and do a good job and give us a lot of feedback. So
thank you.
One more thing, actually, it has been almost a year since the policy was created. I just say that I think that was a really great decision. 364 days since the policy was adopted. So
really,
Someone's been counting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, thank you so much, you two, for all of your hard work. We appreciate it. All right, business administrator report. Do you have anything you'd like to report on, Devin?
I do. I hired our purchasing person, our purchasing and finance coordinator. He starts on March 4th. So it's a really good get. He is currently the purchasing director at Alpine School District and wanted to come and work with our team. So we're really excited to have him start. Otherwise, we're plugging away.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, time for board member roundtable. We'll go ahead and just go down the line. If you have a report on something you want to report on, let us know, and if not, we can
I went to the last MTech meeting, and something that's great opportunities for students, and they're adding a data analytics one, so something that's really needed, and they keep adding, and great opportunities for our students.
Thank you. Gina, anything to report today?
I'll do LegCom again, Legislative Committee. We have been meeting every week. And we go over all the bills, and we also went up to Down the Hill with those who were able to attend and spoke to some legislators. We have a tracking sheet. Anyway, we've been really trying to keep track of how these bills will affect specifically our district, and we're working on, well, I think it's live. Is that correct? I think there's one of the pages on our website looks at the bills that have to do with education, and then one of the columns, the last column, is what is the direct effect that it has on our district, because we think that's something that people in our area will want to know. And so we're going to make that a little more visible. That's our next step, but that's something for us to look out for. But I think we've been doing a lot of good work. Special shout out to Terry, who's kind of been rounding us all up, and Jennifer, who goes to JLC and really keeps us informed, and Superintendent Dow, who writes emails to our legislators to let them know what those, it's too late, what the impact on our district would be. That's all I have.
I just want to also echo the thanks to the legislative committee. That being on that committee in January and February is no joke. So we appreciate all your time that you're putting into that. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Meg?
I wave.
I wave. Okay, I also wave. Jennifer?
I would first say we met with PTA today, and just they wanted to make sure we all know we're invited next week to their Founders Day luncheon at noon in here next Wednesday. I think that's the 21st. So we'd love to have you there. Yes. So Utah School Board Association, I sent you an email, but just a reminder, we have our regional meeting on March 7th. Would love to have you there. We'll be talking about legislative stuff primarily. And then I'm guessing we probably don't have many public watching at this time of night anymore, but my remarks are not only for the board here, but also for the public. 70 people.
70
wow.
people watching.
Good job, you guys. I'm very proud of you. Thank you.
Thanks for.
I just want to say is I've been very involved in watching legislative things, looking at bills. I have some concerns about how some of our legislators view education, and I really encourage those who support public education, who see the good work we're doing, who recognize that our teachers are professionals, who care for our students and are good people and members of our community. Like, please communicate that to legislators. And in particular, the Executive Appropriations Committee was meeting yesterday and today. We don't know the results of that yet, but they're working to determine how all the funding is going to be allocated. And one of the requests is $50 million more towards the Utah Fits All Scholarship. It is a program that hasn't even started yet and already got $42 million last year. And so I would just ask to please write to that committee and ask them to not allocate any more funding to that until we have some data that shows it's an effective program. And in the meantime, if we have that $50 million, they're telling us it's a tight year. They're only proposing to give us 1.2% increase above the regular growth in inflation, which is not a lot. That's $75 a student. We have a lot of needs as we work to support all students in our district. And we could use a lot more funding, a lot more than the $50 million, but please tell them to allocate that $50 million to our public schools and not to private school vouchers for a program that we don't know how effective it is. So that's my rant, and I'm done.
Thank you. Barry?
Because I went to go speak at a legislative committee 2 weeks ago, I think, I was able to meet Matt Pennington, who is just hired as the new state safety commissioner from funding from last year's legislative session, and invited him to our safety committee meetings, because our school district is ahead of a lot of school districts when it comes to the safety of our students and buildings, so that he knows where we are compared to other school districts.
Okay. Lisa?
I guess the one thing I'll mention is that we have the Provo City School District Foundation Easter Basket Auction coming up. And so this is a great opportunity for all of us to come together to support our schools and to reach out to the community and ask them if they would be willing to donate items or cash to the foundation to help support after-school programs, to support Camp Big Springs, to fund teacher grants. There's just so many ways that the foundation really lifts and supports the work that's already being done by the talented staff and people here in our district. So the date is, I have to look at my calendar, March 18th. It's a Monday evening, but if you don't see an invite, check social media, but also reach out to one of us if you'd like an invite, and or if you know a business or own a business or have a neighbor who you think would be willing to contribute and be a part of that. We just really would love to rally the community together around our public schools here in Provo.
Thank you so much. Moving on to our superintendent's report.
We just have some travel that I want to make you aware of. We have Independence High School doing one of their outdoor exhibitions that was approved. That goes to Moab. We also have track from Provo High School that's going to Pocatello, and a St. George tennis tournament for Provo High School, and boys and girls wrestling from Provo High School going to North Logan. Some of those have actually already occurred, but because they're in-state travel, they were approved. And I think everybody has heard a lot from me, so we've already had all the reports. So.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to adjourn this business meeting?
I move we adjourn.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.